Right, welcome to the latest edition of Asian Persuasion MMA podcast, and we're joined today by Fox Sports Asia's Andrew Whitelaw, who's just got back from Vegas, where a certain UFC 229 event took place. Andrew, how are you doing today?
I'm good, boys. I'm good. Thanks for having me on. Pleasure to be here. It's been quite a week. I'm just about recovered. It's an absolute mission getting back from Las Vegas. But a definite high point for me, I'd say, in terms of covering UFC. I don't think any of us could have anticipated that being quite as big of a aftermath as it was.
Well, I'm sure we'll come to that in a moment, but let's talk about the actual event first, and then maybe the whole fight week. How was the atmosphere in Vegas leading up to the night?
It was an interesting one. I was there from the Tuesday onwards for the open workouts. I think was the first thing we attended. We went to the Performance Institute the night before, and there was Tony Ferguson being odd and interesting. What a character, talking about relish and all that kind of thing. And then there was Misha Tate there as well, Anthony Pettis. There was no bad blood between Pettis and Ferguson. There seemed a bit of mutual respect. Ferguson, though, I don't know if you saw his interview with the media. He's a bit unhappy, He lost his title. He went through a horrific knee injury, and he's become a little bit of a motivational speaker now, some sort of unorthodox motivational speaker. And he's well aware of the media always calling him weird and cringeworthy. And he was swearing at us, and he was like, maybe you lot have a problem. Maybe you lot need to turn the cameras around and have a word with yourself. So that was a fun start to the week. The Performance Institute I'll get to in a bit, because that was remarkable place. So anyway, open workouts. We started off, Khabib was first out, and he was just getting booed. You would have seen the footage. The Irish fans, when you ask about the atmosphere around Vegas, I got the sense initially that maybe the Irish fans weren't going to, or hadn't come out in force as much as I'd heard about. I was expecting an army, and what I got was a few battalions. They were there, but I have this sense that the UFC or the Conor McGregor fever kind of peaked with the Jose Aldo fight. It reached fever pitch, and you boys work in the industry, and you see what your numbers do, and we all know when a Conor fight happens, everybody's numbers go like that. I get this sense that, in Ireland as well, this love of Conor McGregor absolutely peaked around the Jose Aldo knockout. And the Bellator antics, when he went in the cage at Bellator and had to go at Mark Goddard, then the bus incident, I get the sense that some people in Ireland have not turned their back on Conor as such, but a little bit disdainful. Maybe he leaves a bad taste. Your average Irish person along the street who used to revere him as kind of a sporting hero and a pride of the country. I think some of your neutrals perhaps have gone a bit sour on him. So whether that's had something to do with it or not, because I think during the Aldo fight, the average punter might have got a plane ticket to Vegas just so they can say they were there and drape themselves in the tricolor. Now I think it's more the people have stuck with him. So anyway, I was a bit noticeable of the fact that there weren't as many Conor fans I would like to see. Having said that, they booed Khabib. They booed him hard, and you would have seen as well, he tried to trash talk a bit. He was like, guys, the Irish language, tell me about the Irish language. And they were just like, boo, I shit on Bass. It was all quite childish, but interesting to see. And then there was also, one of those Conor lookalikes. I feel like there's one of those guys at every event now, and he was going mad and swearing at the Khabib fans. And there was one or two that I thought it might kick off, because they're not to be trifled with, are they, those Khabib fans? And we saw, Anthony Pettis in there as well, looking sharp. We saw Tony doing his mad sort of Ninja Turtle workout as well. That was just a great experience. And, you had your Ariel Helwani's there and Luke Thomas, all this, very much a who's who in the MMA media. I've got trying to recall this all in the right order, because it was all such a whirlwind. And what did we have after that? Ultimate Media Day, which was, again, fascinating, because it's just a scramble of all your world's media. Fox Sports had the rights, so we were told that we'd get our one-on-one interviews, but at the same time, you want to get in there and chat to everyone. So it's kind of, if you're a fan, and I think ultimately, if you cover sport, you're a fan, aren't you? But it's like Christmas if you're an MMA fan, because it's just a room full of the biggest stars. You get the red corner in first, the blue corner in second. Derek Lewis, Michelle Waterson, Tony Ferguson, and there's obviously a big crowd around the biggest stars. And we're all trying to get our questions in and build our stories. And throughout the week, it was fun to be able to film your on-camera links with the Las Vegas Strip in the background. I don't know if I'm a huge fan of Vegas, actually, boys. It's a bit over the top, but having that background was pretty amazing. Then when we had the press conference, you saw what happened then. Conor was late. I thought that was going to be a big disappointment, but that's when the Irish fans, that's when I started to sense they were there. They flooded in. We were queuing for ages. Sugar Sean O'Malley just appeared out of nowhere and was taking photos with everyone, which was great to see. He was fully, afro, wearing the Reebok jersey and everything. And a part of me thought I'd like a photo, and I maintained my professionalism. So I didn't go. But we go in there, and the place is just, it's kicking off. My cameraman was like, right, you need to get down to the front. You need to ask Conor a question. And I don't mind admitting, I was a little bit nervous for some reason. I think over 2 million people perhaps watched that press conference, and it was a lot. And there was some people asking bad questions, and the crowd would let you know. Like, there was one lady who asked about hunger about 4 times, and the whole crowd was just like, "Shit question." In the end, I did ask Conor a question and worked it into my package, my news piece quite nicely. I basically said, Dana was worried that you would not come back. You'd earned too much money, but seeing your body language this week and the way everyone's reacted to you, it seems like you're back, but are you all in? And he just said, yes, mate, I'm all in. This is what it's all about. I'm buzzing to be here. So as somebody who thinks Conor's good for the sport, for the main, I was pleased to hear that. And so that's all leading up to the fight. What were your thoughts, boys? I'm trying to keep this nice and concise. It was a mad week. There's a lot to get in, but up until everything I've said, the open workouts, the first press conference that we had, I wasn't even there for that. That was back in New York. But the second press conference, Conor not showing up. What were your thoughts watching it back here in Asia and the reactions on your page?
I just want to kind of point out on one thing that you said, where you said during the fight week, you did not think there were a lot of Irish fans that came in, at least in the initial few days. What I read was that the Irish fans were actually stopped in Ireland as well as in Vegas when they reached the airport, and they were sent back. So from what I read, a large chunk of the Irish fans that kind of had a criminal record were sent back to Ireland. So maybe that's one of the reasons. Maybe I'm not too sure.
I think that's we've got to be careful. We're a little bit misleading. We can't say a large chunk of the Irish fans had a criminal record. I think that's got some bad connotations. I think, yes, if you have a criminal record, it's tough to get into America no matter where you're from, and that's going to happen to you if you're from Timbuktu or wherever. If you're from England, which I am, that's always going to happen to you. But I don't think there was a case of the Irish fans being stopped en masse. Conor made mention of it, I think, in the press conference. Like, we're here now. It took a while to get us here. I got the initial sense that they hadn't shown up, but then trust me, when it came towards fight day, it makes sense that some of them would have just come for the weekend and not fight week. But around the T-Mobile Arena the day before, getting predictions, it was a wonderful atmosphere. The sun was out, and there's kind of a really nice al fresco feel around the T-Mobile. Loads of beers. They're playing Irish music, like sort of fiddles and stuff, and there was proper 12 on sale. And it was just a really nice, there was no malice in the atmosphere. Everyone was really seeming to enjoy themselves. And we're going around asking predictions. Most of the fans were Irish, so inevitably, Conor in round 2, absolutely no doubt about that. There was so much confidence. But you asked neutrals as well. Everybody we spoke to, bar 1 or 2, said Conor by knockout. No problem. That knockout power, and I think even the experts could have subscribed to that. It was always the 50-50 fight, I think, for the experts who I spoke to. Ariel Helwani doesn't give predictions, but off camera, I heard him predict a Conor McGregor round 3. So I was interested to hear that, because I would always back Khabib. I thought Khabib's decision personally, but I began to be swayed. I remember writing on my Facebook, and after hearing Conor in the press conference. He's got that magic about him. That's why people love him. He makes you believe. And I remember saying I'm starting to sway towards Conor now. When Khabib was trying to trash talk and talk about the Irish and couldn't get a word in, he looked angry. And I don't care how much of a double hard Dagestani you are, growing up in mountains, wrestling bears. As a human being, when you're trying to speak and a crowd of people is just booing your every word and slating you and swearing at you and belittling you, you've got to have an impact. But the thing is, Khabib's just too good, and his strength of mind is certainly there, isn't it? But sorry, for the original point, the Irish, they did flood in. They came in their flags, they came in their numbers, and then it did turn into an army. But I really enjoyed the atmosphere. I thought the vibe was a very positive one. I know there was fights at the weigh-ins, but I was backstage. I didn't see them with Drake and all that came out. I was waiting for Dana White backstage, tapping away on my laptop.
I think you mentioned there the Conor. One of the things people love about him, he sells confidence. It's like the Mayweather fight. I think everyone went from believing he had no chance to thinking, hang on a minute, he could do this. You physically can't be that confident unless you know something we don't. So he does sell you that. But back to your question, for me the big question during the fight week was, had he got in Khabib's head? And like when he started talking rubbish about the Irish language, I was thinking, is that he doesn't normally do that? Is that a sign that he's breaking? When he left the press conference early, was that a sign that he'd got in his head a little bit? But I think he'd answered them questions certainly in the fight. May have let himself down maybe immediately after the fight. But what were your thoughts about the actual fight?
To be honest with you, that moment, was it round 2, where Khabib was just raining down blows, elbows. I was just going, oh my God, oh my God. And I was up right at the top of the stadium with all the Paradigm management, just looking around, looks on their faces, because they managed Tony Ferguson as well. So it's interesting having just seen that all-out war. To be honest, it was shocking, actually. I think the reaction was that it was shocking. You were seeing Conor getting beaten up. You were seeing this kind of myth, this legend of a man, and all this persona around him kind of being stripped away, and the look in his face. He didn't look scared as such, but he didn't want to talk, let's talk now. He didn't fancy having a chat. Well, I don't think anyone fancies having a chat when that kind of force is just being waterfall, it's just like a gush of force upon you. I thought that was absolutely fascinating. I thought Conor came back in round 3, and I thought, is this magical moment, one of these great moments in sporting history? Everybody loves a comeback. But we've seen it before with Nate Diaz, the first fight, where Conor just looks like struggling. He's feeling around. In round 4, he was struggling again. And Khabib just wears you down. It wasn't the same fatigue where he had the hands on the hips and he's running around trying to gasp for air. It was more just this war of attrition, these elbows and these fists of fury. And then it was just time. I think Bisping said that he gave up a bit. I don't know if it's a case of just he gave up. It's just the will saps out of you in a Khabib fight. It's what happened, what everyone thought might happen. One of the two things: either Khabib wears you down, and I think he was more worn down than anyone could have predicted. Well, I said Khabib decision, right? I thought he'd wear him down, kind of in an Edson Barbosa way, that we've seen him in an Ally Quinta way, that wasn't as dramatic as the Barbosa way. But to get a finish, I think that really put the exclamation mark on it, don't you? And it was shocking, but not shocking. It was like, oh, well, Khabib's an unstoppable bear of a man. We all knew this. So it wasn't shocking in that sense. But to see Conor reduced to that, I suppose, because he was never in the fight. The romantic in me thought maybe he's coming back in round 3, but in hindsight, he was never in the fight, and he should never have an immediate rematch. I want to see the magic back as a neutral, because the Alvarez fight, the Aldo fight, both Diaz fights were some of my favourite, most exhilarating moments in MMA as a spectator and as a journalist. I want to see him fight somebody who he could actually fight again. I think we'd see probably the same result in an immediate rematch. One day, I don't rule him out being able to challenge Khabib a bit more. But, you haven't asked me that question, but I honestly think for a money fight, I'd like to see Conor fight GSP and the winner fight the winner of Tony versus Khabib. I think that would be amazing. I think GSP wins. Other part of me, again, I say I want Conor to kind of get a bit more humble and just fight somebody maybe more on his level. I don't know, a rematch with Dustin Poirier or Max Holloway. Can he go back down to 145 at his age? It'd be a struggle, but I think he could do it. He's never missed weight, has he? So, or the winner of Holloway Ortega, that would be a fight. And you'd fancy Conor against either of those two, wouldn't you?
Ortega maybe could be tricky because he's so good at the jiu-jitsu side and he's strong as Khabib. But did you think, I thought Conor just didn't quite look himself. He hadn't fought for 2 years, but you think with his confidence, ring rust isn't going to be an issue. But John Kavanagh said afterwards he's most disappointed about getting knocked down by taking that punch. He looked very... We're not used to seeing Conor take a punch like that. He's normally so good at distance and seeing what's coming. And even third round, he won that third round. He still, although he was awfully pretty tired after the second round, he still didn't look like the Conor we know.
I agree, mate. I think absolutely everything you just said, that was what I thought at the time. He doesn't look himself, he doesn't look sharp. And what disappointed me was we thought the moments that Conor got to stand and trade with Khabib was the moment Conor would shine. There's a reason all those fans said it's going to be a knockout, because the minute he lands on the chin, it's over. But the trouble is, when he did land, and he did land a few clean shots, it didn't have that devastating power that we've seen again and again and again throughout his featherweight career. All that power that lit up Eddie Alvarez, the underground king. He's no slouch, or whatever, as they say in the States. I was disappointed that he didn't look sharp. And when it came to his world, his realm of fighting, he didn't dominate. He didn't own it. That was a beautiful overhand right from Khabib, and I think Kavanagh was actually quite impressed with that, wasn't he?
He was.
Conor would have been disappointed with that. He would have been disappointed. I think the mentality Conor has, he'll want an immediate rematch, and he'll feel the next time he can show us what he didn't show us before. And look, you wouldn't put it past him. But I think another thing Kavanagh said was they worked way too much on defensive. They gave way too much credit. I say way too much credit. You have to give credit to the offense of Khabib, but I don't think he backed himself enough, which is unusual.
Yeah, and I wanted to ask you that because one of the most surprising things during the fight was Khabib winning the stand-up exchanges. Here we thought Khabib will not stand with someone like Conor because he leaves himself open. We saw that with Edson Barboza, where he ate head kicks. We saw that with Ala Quinta, where he ate combinations. But did that kind of surprise you, the fact that Khabib willingly stood and traded with Conor McGregor?
In a way, no, because you feel for all the confidence Conor has, Khabib also is a very confident human being for different reasons. The guy's 26-0 heading into the fight. That breeds an awful lot of confidence. You saw the outlandish standard Conor predictions he was making. He just laughed it off. That's when he thought he'd definitely not get me in his head. So it doesn't surprise me. What's interesting is that Conor's a much more beautiful striker. People talk about martial arts being a form of art and movement. Conor embodies that for me. I mentioned the Alvarez again, those combinations. That, for me, was a thing of real beauty. When Khabib strikes, it's not beautiful at all. It's raw aggression. The overhand right itself, the technique was not great. His chin's all the way over here and he's just throwing. And that's what's surprising about the way he caught him. When he was trading with Ala Quinta, his head's up in the air, he's not snapping his jab. But he's still trading with Ala Quinta, he's not a bad lightweight. So, look, it doesn't surprise me that there's the way Conor strikes is a lot more beautiful, a lot more fluid, and he's a wonderful boxer, as we found out. But this is MMA, man. This is MMA. And when you're fearing the takedown, he puts that fear of God in you that the takedown's coming at any moment. You can't not respect that. So you're always caught in two minds. And I think that really worked in Khabib's favour. It wasn't pretty to watch. I'm not surprised that he did it, though. And I'm not surprised. I suppose I'm a little bit surprised that we all thought that against Iaquinta, that's why it was such a fascinating fight. We all thought he can be got at if he keeps his head in the air like this, and his head up, not got his chin down. Conor's going to expose him, and so yes and no, I suppose. Yeah, I'm a bit surprised. You're right, but not surprised that he's got the confidence to trade. And look, he trains with absolute beasts at AKA. He's training with Daniel Cormier and Luke Rockhold, and from what we hear, he has the better of some of those exchanges.
Yeah, and sorry, one other thing that I was kind of interested in knowing about is, do you think, and again, with all due respect to Khabib's previous opponents, from what I can remember, he has been knocked down once in his entire career. Once, and that was against Conor McGregor. Do you think it's safe to say that Khabib has the best chin in the business today?
He's certainly got a chin on him. I don't think it's been tested nearly enough, to be honest with you. I really don't. I don't think Conor connected like I would have liked to see. I think if we asked Conor, I think he'd agree with that. Do you think he really connected cleanly? If he did, then it's a worry, yeah, because I think Khabib's got a granite chin. I need to watch the fight back again. I really don't feel he's been tested, and that's credit to him. The best fighters in the world hit and don't get hit. Even against Barbosa, you know, we wondered if that flying knee was coming. We wondered if some of those wheel kicks were coming, and he never had a chance. He was on his back most of the fight. Al Iaquinta isn't the hardest hitter in the world. You know, Michael Johnson caught him once. Other than that, that's another criticism of Khabib being one of the greatest of all time. 27-0, what a record. I think he's a much more legitimate record now that he's beaten McGregor, and so convincingly. But a lot of his fights leading up to around the 20, you know, who are they?
Yeah.
Them, have you? Very, very obscure fighters. So, look, I'd love to see Khabib defend against Tony Ferguson, get tested. Tony Ferguson has earned that fight. And if Tony Ferguson doesn't get the shot now, then these rankings, these belts, it's a travesty. Conor doesn't deserve the rematch. I'm sorry. In answer to your question, I can't tell you if Khabib has the best chin in the game, because it just, in my opinion, has not been tested enough. And that's credit to him.
Let's just quickly talk about Tony Ferguson. I want to talk about Tony Ferguson's fight with Anthony Pettis, which was incredible. And like you say, whether he should get the next shot. I mean, I'm a huge Tony Ferguson fan. I mean, who can't like his style? I love him outside the cage as well. I love that quirkiness about him. And I think it's a shame him and Conor didn't fight a year or so ago, because I think, or in the past, I think that would have been similar to Nate Diaz fight in a way, as in Nate Diaz had a big cult following, but when he fought Conor and the chemistry between them, that built, mate. I think similar would happen with Tony Ferguson. I think the back and forth between those two would be amazing. But yeah, what did you think of the co-main event?
A different thing of beauty, wasn't it? That war, that warrior spirit in a way. Blood pouring down their faces. There was a huge buzz in the stadium. I'm sure you felt it watching at home. Anywhere you watched that fight, that was the rawness of MMA, but also that mutual respect. And Showtime Pettis living up to his nickname. We loved seeing the flashy stuff from him, and Tony's capable of that as well. I asked Tony, you know, he's your opponent and all, but when you saw that Showtime kick in 2013, don't tell me that you didn't go in the gym and do that yourself, because like, you've got that vision, like that's a Tony Ferguson thing to do. And typical Tony answer is like, I've been doing stuff off the wall for years. Like, you know what I mean? He's always got some mad answer, and he's always talking about his quirky like training techniques. And yeah, it's always about him, you know. Like basically his whole persona is, I'm the fucking man and nobody knows it, you know what I mean? So sorry for swearing. But look, it was a really fight of the night candidate. I think had fight of the night written all over it. Ferguson was always the favourite going into that fight, but Pettis recently had a bit of a resurgence, a bit of a weight off his shoulders, because he won the title so young. I think he talks about it all being too much too soon in a way, and once you've got to the very top, what's next? I think Pep Guardiola cried after he won 6 trophies at Barcelona, because he didn't know what to do with himself. Kind of similar thing with Pettis. And then it became all about, when are you getting the title back? When are you getting the title back? Now he's just learned to relax, and he's just thinking about enjoying it a bit more, because he's got the money, Pettis, and he's got the fan base. Everybody likes Anthony Pettis. So his demeanour seems a lot healthier now. Even in defeat, he seemed happy. He seemed proud of the performance he showed. Some people questioning throwing in the towel. Now, at the time, I was one of them. I really felt, look, easy for us to say, isn't it, that we're not in there and the coaches know best. And sometimes it's admirable in a way that they called it off. But Nick Newell has said, look, I fight with one hand every time. So yeah, maybe we're sick as fans wanting that to carry on, but it was so awesome. And you've seen that film Warrior with Tom Hardy when he just fights with a dislocated shoulder. We've seen people battle on before. I'm sure you boys could pull out some famous examples of fighters. I've got nothing off the top of my head, but fighting with one hand, I wasn't sure about the decision only because I was enjoying it so much. But I just feel another test. Look at Tony Ferguson's resume now. Look at the people he's beaten. I mean, I love Rafael dos Anjos. He smoked him up, What he's done, Ferguson, is remarkable. And look at the records of just win of him and Khabib. Like they're on a collision course now. They must fight. They must fight if they can both stay fit. So, yeah, in summation, what a performance from Pettis and Ferguson. My respect for both of them only increased.
Right, and as you said, the fight between Khabib and Tony is a long time in the making. They were supposed to fight, 4 times until now, but the fights have always fallen through. Do you think stylistically, if you look at both Khabib, who's so dominant from the top control, and Ferguson, again, under Eddie Bravo, one of the best jiu-jitsu practitioners in the lightweight division, an amazing striker, amazing cardio, Khabib, excellent cardio, untested chin, as you said. Do you think that's probably the best fight that we can see at the lightweight division in history?
Interesting, but it's got the potential, hasn't it, as a spectacle. How good is Tony Ferguson? If Tony Ferguson is as good as Tony Ferguson believes, then we're in for something truly special. I think he can give Khabib the toughest challenge he's faced yet, a tougher challenge than Conor, because his jiu-jitsu, his ground game is so good. And look at what he did to Kevin Lee off his back.
Yeah.
And Lee stylistically is maybe the closest thing we have to Khabib. Funnily enough, I think Kevin Lee could probably give Khabib a tougher test than Tony, just because he's such a strong wrestler, and I believe he improves every time. I know Kevin Lee lost to Tony, but he was suffering with staph infection. I think stuff like that, fans and almost journalists don't want to know. They don't want to know about your excuses. They're just like, yeah, get me cake, which isn't great, but I think that's the reality. So, could it be one of the best fights in lightweight history? I got to mention GSP again, because he looks like he's cutting weight. GSP versus Khabib is a better fight than Khabib versus Tony. So I think Tony's more deserving, but I think GSP versus Khabib is the best fight in lightweight history, both in terms of spectacle, because they can both wrestle, and the fight IQ of GSP can read Khabib arguably better than anyone. But also in terms of like the draw of it, those old school fans coming out for GSP, kind of the old head, the legacy of GSP. If he were to beat Khabib, he would be the greatest of all time. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, can't argue with that.
Absolutely, yeah. So talking about GSP and Khabib, the other thing that I would like to ask you is, do you think as a casual fan that just wants to see two fighters exchange trade, see the blood, the sweat and all of that stuff, because you talked about GSP's fight IQ, he would not stand and trade with anyone. He knows where he's really good at, and Khabib knows where he's really good at. Do you think as a casual fan that's a fight you'd be very much interested to see?
I know that GSP isn't stupid enough. He's not Donald Cowboy Cerrone. He's not going to just pointing to the ground, let's do this. However, I thought the Michael Bisping fight was incredible. And weren't there some spinning back elbows? Weren't there some Superman punches? He loves a Superman punch. So let's not do GSP a disservice. I know that a lot of his career wins have been decisions, and on paper he's not an exciting fighter. I don't know if that's necessarily true. Khabib as well, give him some credit. He standed and traded with one of the best strikers of all time, Conor McGregor. So I'm not sure it would be the wet blanket best that it could potentially be, if that makes sense. I would fear that it could end up like that. But the optimist in me says that it would be one heck of a spectacle.
I think as well, before we go, we've got to talk about the Brawl, the aftermath of 229.
Yeah.
You were there in the arena. Tell us what it was like actually being there and witnessing that.
A real buzz, I have to say. Look, afterwards, on the way when we were rushing to the press conference, I spoke to one journalist, and I was like, I don't know what I said. I was like, this is pretty interesting, like, fun sort of thing. I don't know, like, and he was like, it's not fun, it's disgusting. The black eye on the sport of MMA. And I was like, all right, sweetheart, Jesus. And that, I feel, in this 2018 age of where everything has to be offensive, I don't think it's a great look for MMA. I don't think it's anything for anyone to be proud of. I think once we start supporting unsanctioned violence, it's a very slippery slope. We have anarchy. It's not something that should be in any way celebrated or supported, and it's not something we want to see again. However, if you're not honest with yourself and you can't say who we are as human beings, don't care if you're a good person or a bad person, I'm that black and white. If you didn't enjoy an element of the fireworks, the controversy, the madness of it all, if you didn't revel in that in some way, shape or form, then I think you're lying. The newspapers, Google trending, this is the biggest Google trending since 9/11. Twitter, the top 3 tweets on Twitter were UFC 229, Khabib and Conor. Yeah. Dana White was like, it's disgusting, while he's hiding his massive smile and like covering himself in dollar bills. Getting carried away, but come on, guys, it's not a good thing. It shouldn't be taking place. But anyone who's like, oh, mixed martial arts is disgusting, this is legitimized people's criticisms that it's not a real sport, that it's a bait subculture. It happens in rugby, it happens in basketball, it happens in baseball, football. Brawls happen. Thankfully, no one was seriously injured. The bus incident was probably much worse than this because people were hurt. But what can I say, guys? It kicked off, emotions were high. You want to see it take place inside the Octagon. What was it like being there? As a journalist, it was a real buzz. I'm just being honest with you. I'm not going to say, I couldn't hide my disgust. I couldn't hide my excitement as to the fact that I was there while this moment in history is taking place. I'm just being honest with you about how I felt. I did a live report with my phone. About 23,000 people tuned in. Everyone's like, oh my God, what's going on? Because of this narrative. Some people saying that this isn't real. This is WWE, that the UFC staged all of this to make money, I'm not a big conspiracy theorist. Leon, you might be able to tell me more about that. I choose to believe that it was all real. But look, as a journalist, in a history of martial arts, MMA, I think this will be remembered, that night in Las Vegas when Khabib mauled Conor McGregor, the poster boy for the sport, and then it all kicked off. Sure, if someone had died or there'd been a tragedy, this would be a very different story, and I would not be saying this. But no one was seriously injured. At the end of the day, it was kind of handbags, right? In hindsight, and we're kind of having fun deconstructing who hit who from behind. I mean, that was a punch from behind from Conor's teammate, but everyone got stuck in. I don't think there was even any bloodied noses. So being there was a real buzz. Seeing everyone's reactions with the Paradigm guys, with fans, with mayhem, but a really, there was something really, really exciting about it. Telling the story from the ground is the kind of sports journalism you dream about. So I felt privileged to be there. I don't know if that's the right reaction in terms of society, but it's my reaction.
Well, I was in...
Right.
Go on.
Yeah, sorry. Because I wanted to kind of relate my situation, what I experienced with yours, because I don't know if you were at a UFC 193 in Melbourne, Australia, the Ronda Rousey-Holly Holm fight. I was sitting right Octagon side, just 10 feet away, and when Holly knocked Ronda out in front of 57,000 people, there was that one moment of silence, one moment of, oh my God, did that just happen? Was that kind of the feeling that was in the arena when Khabib made Conor tap in the 4th round?
I don't know about silence, more of like an, oh my God, yeah. Yeah. Yeah, there was a moment of silence, but just, that was a shock. But we could see it coming, we could see it coming. But just the buzz of the sport, whether you're rooting for Conor or rooting for Khabib, I feel like maybe because the outcome, as a journalist, I'm trying desperately to remain neutral. So as long as the outcome is exciting, I feel like it's a victory for journalists, right? If the outcome is boring, journalists lose. But if it's a shock win for anybody, if we're covering the sport, that's a victory for us. So, look, I'm neutral, but I'm a big admirer of the way Conor McGregor performed. I've already said that I thought the way he won many of his previous fights was a real thing of beauty. The way he lost to Nate Diaz was a real thing of beauty. This wasn't so much a beautiful defeat from Conor because I don't think it was him at 100%. I really feel like it was a lackluster performance from him. But I do feel like as a journalist, he won because there's so much to write about.
I think Danny said now the pay-per-views has hit almost 2.5 million, which is incredible. So from that point of view, it's a success. But like you said, I think I've never seen and heard so many people talking MMA. I watched the fights in Bangkok. I was covering One Championship. I had to go to the airport soon after. I saw several people watching the press conferences on their phones. I could hear Dana White's voice. I was thinking, this is unreal. I've never... So,
unprecedented.
It's crazy. It's not obviously a positive, but it's got the world talking MMA. And what I look at, a similar point of view from you, I think you can be entertained from it and not condone it at the same time. I find drama entertaining. I also find One Championship, the respect, I would admire that, but who doesn't love a bit of drama?
I think you put that very well, very eloquently on. You can be entertained by it without condoning it. And I think that summarises my thoughts perfectly. And ultimately, we're in the business of mixed martial arts. If MMA gets bigger, then more people follow Asian Persuasion MMA, more people tune into my show on Fox Sports Asia. So as I say, I think we'll all take a victory from that. And once you have those fans, then you can start having those discussions about what MMA should be and what's right and what's wrong. But if they don't care to tune in, then where are we? We're left talking to ourselves, aren't we? Like, what I would love to see is, because I put a story out of the breaking news that John Jones was going to fight Alex Gustafsson, which for a fan of the sport is huge, and the numbers weren't very good. But then follow that up with a Khabib Conor story, they absolutely spiked. So what I'd really love to see is for the sport to be able to retain some fans, people who aren't just drawn to the more salacious, darker side of the game, the controversy, but who actually stay for the sport, who stay for the athleticism and the spectacle. I really would love to see people stay. It's great fun over here. Join us. Watch it next time out. It's going to be a belter, UFC 230.
And I think Conor even set precedence with the way. So even the way he says it's just business. I think that summarizes everything. It's just business. The fans, yes, they're emotionally invested, but at the end of the day, it's just business. And like him or not, Conor does great business.
Certainly does, boys. He certainly does. And I think that's going to have to wrap it up for now. I've got to get over to American Muay Thai now.
Well, enjoy.
I've got to go and shoot. Thank you. It's a pleasure. Hopefully we have some more exciting news to tune into. Maybe things that happen inside the Octagon. Certainly some exciting fights to look forward to. There's a lot on the calendar, but I can't wait to see who Khabib fights next and who Conor fights next.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's going to be a better time. Thank you, Andy. Appreciate it.
Take care.
Take care.